This is problem 5 of exam 4 review. At 6 a.m., 500 milliliters of IV fluid is started. It is ordered to run at 60 milliliters per hour. The drop factor is 10 drops per milliliter. How long will the IV last? At what time will the IV finish? So how long will the IV last? They're asking us how many hours the IV is going to run. Once we determine how many hours the IV will run, then we can add that to the starting time, which was 6 a.m., and that will tell us at what time the IV will finish. So we need to get to hours. Well, what do we know? Well, right now we know that the IV is running at 60 milliliters per hour. The IV is running at 60 milliliters per hour. Now that would be a fraction 60 ml over 1 hour. Now we don't want the hours to end up in the denominator. We want the hours to be our answer, so it needs to get into the numerator. What could we do to this fraction so that the hours would be in the numerator? Well, we could flip it upside down, couldn't we? And we could say that 1 hour, for every 1 hour, 60 milliliters are being infused. Well, do we know how many milliliters totally are to be infused? When we look at the problem, it said 500 milliliters was started. So if we were to multiply this fraction by 500 milliliters, wouldn't that cancel the milliliters, leaving us hours, which would tell us then how many hours that 500 milliliters would take to infuse if for every hour 60 of the milliliters are being infused? Now you might say, well, what about the fact that they told us that the drop factor was 10 drops per milliliter? Well, do we really need to use that piece of information in order to figure out the number of hours that it will take for the infusion to finish? Drops per milliliter doesn't help us get to the hours dimension that we want. So that was actually a piece of extraneous information. It was information we really didn't need in order to answer the question. Well, let's see how many hours that would be then. What can we do as far as reducing here? Well, at least we can see that 10 will divide into both of those. 10 goes into 60 6 times. 10 goes into 500 50 times. Hopefully we would also recognize that 6 and 50 are both divisible by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 50 divided by 2 is 25. So the arithmetic really comes down to taking 25 and dividing it by 3. And 8 times, 3 times 8 is 24, with 1/3 of an hour. So it's going to take 8 and 1/3 hours for that infusion to finish. Well, the secondary question was, at what time then will it finish? If it started at 6 a.m., well, that means we're going to need to convert 1/3 of an hour to minutes. Well, I think we can do that in our head. 60 minutes is 1 hour, so if you have 1/3 of an hour, you have 20 minutes, don't you? So the infusion is going to take 8 hours and 20 minutes. So if it started at 6 a.m., 8 hours added to 6 a.m., 8 and 6 is 14, that would be 1400 in the afternoon, which is 2 o'clock p.m. if you're not that familiar with military time. 2 o'clock for the 8 hours plus 20 minutes more, that means the infusion is going to finish at 2:20 p.m.